Well, good morning, everybody. I think I'm going to cook my roast. I'll get this plugged in properly. Get it warmed up a little bit. And I know it's non-stick, but I go ahead and put a little bit of oil in it anyway. And I've got my pot roast. And I'm going to do more than just one way of cooking that. But you'll see that later. I always forget to get my seasoning out. And yes, I use a steak seasoning because it's got garlic and all kind of stuff in it that's good for your meat. Onion powder, garlic, I'm just browning this right now, searing it all the way around. I have to get used to this new cooker because of the temperatures on it. I'm not sure it was the same as the older one that I had, so I have to get used to setting the temperatures on it. As y'all know, searing your meat helps keep the juices inside. You can do the same thing in a crock pot if you want to use a frying pan to sear your meat and then put your meat in the crock pot. It doesn't take quite as long to cook it in a cooker like this one as it would your crock pot though. And then you're only dirtying your one pan. And this has black pepper in it already. That's why I'm not adding more black pepper. Looks like one great big steak, don't it? Instead of a roast, but it's a roast. Worcestershire sauce. And I'm just going to put it on the top. It's seared on both sides, so I'm going to put the lid on it. I'm going to turn down my heat. To just about 200, 250. And I'm going to let that slow cook for a while. I'll come back with you when I think it's cooked enough, because I know you don't want to watch this pot just cook. So we'll be back. Well, I'm back. And that started browning on the outside, and that's what I wanted it to do. Right now I'm going to cut off part of it. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with this. I mean, you don't even really have to cut it. It comes apart. If it was a little cooler, I could pull it apart with my fingers. Now this is if you're just cooking for 1 or 2 people. I'm going to show you how to make 2 different meals out of one roast. We're just going to take some of this. It is really good and flavored. See if I can get another piece off of here. That's really tender. I mean, it'll basically pull apart on its own. But I like to cut just a little bit of that fat off of it. I don't like a whole lot of fat on my meat. I mean, it's okay to cook it in the fat, but I don't like to eat the fat unless it's crispy brown. But you can see how it's just pulling apart. really need my plate. And I'm going to take a corn tortilla, what do they call them? Tostito shells or chip. It's basically a flat chip, and probably nobody has done this but me. I don't know. Because usually they break them up and eat them different ways. I take my refried beans and just smear it all over this. I guess you can see what I'm doing up there. I put some lettuce. I put my meat. Rinse my hand off a little bit. I'm going to put my cheese. I'm going to put it in the microwave for about 2 minutes. Or 1 minute. That should be enough to melt the cheese, I hope. And my beans kind of run off with the chip a little bit, but that's okay. No problemo. Now we're going to take our salsa. I'm going to put just a little bit of salsa on the top. And you might say, well, you don't put lettuce in the microwave, you know, when you put it on something like this. Well, yeah, some people do. But you do that, and then you get some sour cream. And I didn't get a spoon for the sour cream. Let me go rinse this one off a little bit. And we're going to just daub some sour cream up there. This sour cream is got a little bit watery because I had it opened already, so I'm just going to kind of stir it up so my cream it gets creamy. And if I had guacamole right now, I'd put a couple slices of guacamole on there. And you talk about some good eating. That's good eating right there. And that's a meal right there for one person. And all you used is one tostada chip, a little bit of your beef roast, some lettuce, refried beans, salsa, and your sour cream. Now I'm going to show you how I'm going to finish. That's good. Now I'm going to show you how I'm going to finish this. I forgot to turn it around. I'm turning it up on about 100, 200 degrees. I'm going to add my carrots and onions. But see, you can save as much of that roast as you want to go on a tostada. It's up to you. But this is how you can get 2 different meals out of this one roast. Then I'm going to put my potatoes. I cut up 3 small or medium-sized potatoes. I'm putting my potatoes in here. I'm also going to add water. And that was a pint of water, or half a quart, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to add just a little bit more, about half of this, not quite half. I'm simply going to put the lid back on it, and I'm going to cook that until my potatoes and my onions and my carrots are done. And then that'll be ready to eat basically, but we got to let it cook some. But there you go. I mean, take you a pot roast. I know it's a little bit expensive, but if it's just 2 people or 1 person, you can take out half of that roast after it's cooked, shred it up, use it on tacos or a tostada shell, and make a meal out of it. You know, that's a little bit different than just a roast. And then you still got the other part of it for your roast, potatoes, carrots, corn, beans, or whatever you want to put in your roast. And we'll be back when that one's done. Now my roast has been cooking just about 30 minutes with the potatoes and stuff in there. So what I'm going to do is just take my roast out at this point, if I can get it out without it falling apart. Because that roast is done. I'm going to leave my potatoes and stuff in there at this point. And let my potatoes cook. My potatoes and carrots get done, then it should be finished. But I'm just gonna, I really need my cutting board, but I already used it and I got it in the sink. But I'm just gonna cut this up in sections. You can see how tender it is. Hope I'm not getting in front of you. Now this is where I usually trim a lot of the fat off. Because like I said, I don't like that fat. I like to keep it on there until it cooks, but then I take it off. You can do ever how you want. If you want to eat the fat, you can leave it on. I don't. I do not like the fat. Like I said, unless it's cooked crispy, I'm not going to eat it. It's got to be a crispy critter for me to eat it. But to leave it on and while it's cooking, it gives it a good flavor. It might be better to get this from the other side. Let's move it over here. That way maybe I won't be in front of it all the time. I don't like all that gristle, and I don't like all the fat, so that comes off. Like I said, if you like to eat that, more power to you. Leave it on your roast. I don't like to eat it, so mine comes off. And that little bit around the edge of it. But to leave it on while it's cooking is fine, because it gives the meat more flavor. To leave it on. But I'm just following the fat trail, cutting it apart. Now you can cook it in the crock pot like that if you want to, but I've usually found that my meat almost disintegrates in the crock pot if you cook it the length of time that they tell you to. But this is an idea too if you don't have a crock pot and you've got a cooker like this. Just cook it in your cooker. I either cook mine like this or I put it in my pressure cooker. So there's two options for you. Pressure cook it or cook it like this. It's got a piece of onion on it. And I like to cut mine in like serving sections, so because it wasn't thick enough to really slice, so I cut it in serving sections. My bowl was wet and I didn't realize it. I need to throw that back in there. Check on my potatoes and my carrots. To see all those juices soak up in your potatoes. Oh my God, that makes some really good potatoes and carrots. Just turn them over and let them soak up some of it. And it's done, y'all. Almost like a beef stew, but that was a pot roast. I'm going to turn it off and I'm just going to let it rest a bit before I eat it. But there you go. 2 meals, 2 different types of meals, put it that way, out of 1 pot roast. You got your pot roast with potatoes, carrots, and onions, and then you had the tostada is what it. I can never say it correctly. Tostada, with your refried beans, your beef, your cheese, your lettuce, your sour cream, your salsa, sour cream, and all that on top, and it's really good. So that's 2 different meals you can make with that 1 cut of beef.